Right, today we're going to the fifth study on karma and the afterlife. This is from SD 48.1, first chapter, volume 48, which is about death and mindfulness. Today we're going to reflect on our body and society and various aspects of it, like how do we evolve as a human, how do we evolve into a society in terms of karma and early Buddhism. When we talk about karma, we talk about action. In action, we have physical action of the body, mental action, and the result of those actions. It can be very helpful, very beautiful, in fact, to examine the nature of our action in terms of three interesting terms, that is humanity, spirituality, and divinity. Although these three words seem to show some kind of stages of human development, they kind of work as a parallel, and sometimes they overlap. They help each other in our evolution as practitioners, if you like. Now, the first thing we, of course, should begin with when we talk about karma is the fact that we are born with a human body. We have a human body. Now, notice I say that we are born with a human body. That's our karma in a sense. We are not born with a human mind. Now, this may sound quite strange for a lot of people, but if you really examine the nature of the family, you find it is the family, it's the human family that actually humanizes us. Our parents bring us into this world, they give us this physical body as a human body, but it is those early years, especially the first 7 years, that our mother or our father or parents or guardians, they spend all these years with us to nurture us. And that's what makes us human. In other words, this is the humanization process. Without this humanization process, we will not be human. Our minds will not be human. There are reports, the stories where human children are lost in the jungle and they're raised by some of those more intelligent primates, maybe even wolves. We have many legends of them. And these children, they behave in that kind of behavior, the behavior of their parents. And there are reports where some of these children were caught, and after they were 7 years old, they were quite kind of independent in their movements already. So it is impossible to humanize them, to make them human. So this is where we can see a very important aspect in a human being. We do have this potential, the human potential, but this human potential is only allowed to express himself when there's a human surrounding, with our parents, there is society, and so on. So, in other words, we're not alone. We're not alone. We depend on others for our humanization, on our family, on society, on civilization as a whole, in other words. And it is this process has gone on, this kind of evolution has gone on for many centuries that make us what we are today, so to speak. So when we see the Buddha, in karmic terms, we can say that he's the one who is the most evolved of human beings. He's the one who was raised as a human being, and after that he moved on to attain the special state called Buddhahood. Now, this is a very interesting process that we examine, because this is a process we all are supposed to emulate and to repeat, to go through, so that we overcome suffering. And of course there are many stages for this kind of evolution. The stages are technically called stream winning, once return, non-return, and arahanthood, which we won't go into today. Today we look at the situation more broadly, more generally, and in a sense, in a psychological way. So here we see the Buddha was born as a human baby, he was raised as a human, he was humanized, and then he realized that he wanted to be himself around the age of, according to the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, for example, around his late 20s. He, of course, there are stories like he saw the he saw the three painful sights, and at the fourth sight, he saw an old man, a sick man, a dead man, then he saw this holy man. And that made him realize that we have to face this karma. As humans, we all have the fact that we are born means we will age. The fact that we have a body means something may go wrong with it, there is disease. And indeed, in the end, something does go wrong, we die. It's called the 3 Ds: disease, decay, death. But then he discovered there's a way out that is represented by the sight of this holy man. This holy man shows himself to be a happy person. He has kind of discovered the way out. Beyond the reach of karma, he has discovered true happiness. What that true happiness is, of course, the young Siddhartha, as our Buddha was called, has to find out for himself. In other words, there comes a time in our life, maybe in the late 20s or late 30s, between that period, we begin to wonder about ourselves. We begin to feel that we must find ourselves. Who am I really? What is it that I can be? And we don't know what it is. So we struggle out to discover ourselves. This is where we can compare this situation like we are a chrysalis, that is a caterpillar, or rather this little being in the cocoon. It's not yet a butterfly, it's going to become a butterfly, a beautiful, free flying butterfly. But this chrysalis doesn't know it's going to become a butterfly. A time comes when this chrysalis just knows one thing. It knows that it must struggle out of that cocoon. This cocoon is the safety of the family, the safety of society, even of being a human. So he feels that he has to, this chrysalis must struggle out by itself. We cannot help it, because if we do, then it will be deformed. It must struggle out by itself, and it does. And it becomes a free flying butterfly after that. So in a sense, this little simile depicts the nature of awakening, how the Buddha himself has to struggle out of his humanity to gain, to attain a sort of divinity, if you like. Or in this case, we probably would prefer the word spirituality, because the state of a Buddha goes beyond both human and the divine, because he does not assume it does not take up any more rebirth. Karma does not act on the Buddha anymore. So in that way, death too does not act on the Buddha anymore, so to speak. So here, of course, if we come back, take a step back and look at how do we fit in this kind of scheme of things, we can say the next step in our evolution, that is the next step after our humanity, or based on our humanity, is that we have to use our minds. So the great thing about being humanized is we learn to use our minds. We also learn to use our hearts to think and to feel. So the second stage, you can say there are two aspects of the second stage. The one is to attain spirituality. That is to understand the spirit of things. When we say the spirit of things here, we are referring to the mind, the mental attitude of understanding things around us, thinking about things. In other words, seeing conditionality, seeing the impermanence of things, seeing change. Change is what helps us to grow. Without change, we can never become Buddhas. It is change that helps us to grow. Of course, we can, if we're not conscious, not mindful, change in a backward way, so to speak. We devolve instead of evolve. That's possible too, because in the cycle of karma and rebirth, we can fall back into the subhuman states, or we can evolve into higher states, human being, in the divine. But it's a cycle. We go round and round and we don't get out of it. So that's another problem. So when we go on a higher level, we can talk about the spiral path of awakening to get out of all this cyclic life. But before that, let's talk about the spirituality aspect. Here, in other words, we learn to cultivate the mind. Why do we need to do that? It's because basically we are prisoners of our body. We are dictated by the five senses. We are our five senses, so to speak. And we get caught up with the five senses. And for many of us, we get caught up with the five senses throughout our lives without even realizing how to get out of it. And it's too late when the time, and our time comes, when the sharp life is reached, and that's the end of our life, and then we start all over again. So in other words, impermanence is the cradle of life. It is impermanence that pervades our whole life, changing. And if we understand this change, then we realize we can go beyond the senses. This is the essence of meditation, to free ourselves from our physical senses, at least momentarily, so that we can cultivate our minds, or our hearts, if you like. Because in the Asian language, especially Chinese, for example, the mind and the heart refer to the same thing. Of course, it helps here to see the two aspects of this trans-physical reality. It is the thinking aspect and the feeling aspect, the mind and the heart. So here we see the meditator getting into this fully mental state, experiencing his mind. Why is this experience so important? Because it is an experience of spaciousness, of light, of freedom, basically. It is the potential for us to rise above our human state. The spiritual state is only a kind of a halfway house. It's a step towards something even higher. You can call it the divine aspect of us. And yet, there's another route out. You can also say, you can take the divine way to attain spirituality. So they kind of help each other. What does this mean? Now, we know that there is breath meditation, which calms us down. And there's also loving kindness meditation, which evokes joy, evokes kind of spaciousness, acceptance of ourselves and others. And it is this second aspect which brings out, which awakens the divine potential in us. It makes us divine, in other words. So this is where, while the other religionists of the Buddha's time talk of divinity as being outside of us, or even above us, They ritualize it, they turn it into religion. The Buddha says divinity is within us. We must cultivate this divinity within us. It's not something outside us. What is outside us is not us. It's not useful in that sense. We can cultivate it. We raise ourselves from the human through the spiritual into the divine by cultivating loving kindness. Beginning with loving kindness. Loving kindness is unconditional love, accepting ourselves just as we are. Because if we don't, then we're not facing reality. We think that we are less than what we really are, that we are evil, we are sinners, we are doomed to do bad thing all our lives. We will never change, we will never grow. That is a pessimistic view of life. On the other hand, if we think that we're already enlightened without making any effort at all, that's the other extreme. We're over-optimistic. And again, that is delusion. So to accept ourselves as we really are, and begin there, and from there we're able to build up this joy, and joy is energy. This is another kind of food that we need to cultivate in order to truly brighten up our life, give this wonderful purpose in our life, and that energy to work that purpose. And this is what loving kindness is so important. So loving kindness is so powerful that it is the best effort we can cultivate to influence our karma. It is loving kindness that's the best tool we have to negotiate our karma. In other words, if you cultivate loving kindness regularly, you're least likely, it is very unlikely you'll create bad karma for yourself. I mean, if you have lots of loving kindness, you're not likely to kill or steal or commit adultery or lie or become addicted and drunk. You'll be kind and accepting of others. This is how loving kindness is such an influencer of karma, I feel like. It shapes good karma. So this is the first of the four divine abodes. And the second one is compassion. Here compassion, because it's again, here is where we direct our energy to others, because we cannot be alone in this world. We can, of course, stay alone for a while, but there are others. And so we show this compassion to others so that we create this environment where there is a kind of care for each other. In fact, the old word for compassion, the old English word for compassion is ruth. It's a simple word, ruth. Feeling compassion towards others. It's a beautiful word. It's a kind of old Middle English, which I think should be resurrected and used to show this wonderful quality. So we have love, loving kindness, metta or love, and then you have karuna, compassion or ruth. And then number 3 is the quality of mudita, of gladness, of joy at the goodness of others. We are happy because other people are happy. We rejoice in the goodness of others. And this also is a celebration of good karma. And finally, there is peka, equanimity, and inner peace. The way things are in this world, there are the 8 winds blowing here and there, the paths of vicissitudes of life, happiness and sorrow, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and ill fame, they come and go. So we try to do good, but we can never completely help all the people we want to. Despite that shortcoming, we do not give up. We understand how karma works. People fare according to the karma. Death must come. People must face what they've done before. So we calmly, peacefully accept this. At the same time, not giving up our effort to help other people. So here we have four very important qualities, the four divine abodes. In simple terms, we can call them love, ruth, joy, and peace. So these are four things we need to cultivate, so that we activate our human potential, we become truly human, meaning our senses are all well developed, properly used to create beauty, to help us understand truth of impermanence, the reality of our senses. And with that understanding, we activate the spiritual potential of using our minds, using our hearts, of understanding that we can rise above our senses, we can rise above our body, we can rise above our humanity, to understand ourselves, the spirit of life, and in that way we become divine ourselves here in this very life, to understanding what is truly beautiful in all this. In other words, we realize, we enjoy the spaciousness of our life, of our being, of this light and brightness of our being. That is why very often we see the figure of brightness and light in the Buddha's teaching, because light helps us to see things clearly as they are. So these divine aspects also sometimes illustrated by this figure of light. So we see here this kind of, to some extent, these are stages of development, or there are parallel processes at many points where we cultivate ourselves to lessen our negative karma, to enhance our good karma, and then to rise beyond karma totally, to attain spiritual awakening, to be like the Buddha himself, in other words. So these are things worth reflecting on, thinking about. You can read the rest on your own in section 5.2, on our body and society, and we might add, and beyond. So this is our reflection for today. Let us now close with a short reflection. The Buddha's teaching reminds us to start from where we are, that we are blessed with our human state, to understand this, what this means, that we are able to use this humanity of ours to rise above it, to attain the spiritual and the divine, to understanding the nature of mind and body, to understanding the working of impermanence. Impermanence is change. We can use this change to better ourselves, to awaken from the sleep of craving and ignorance, to become Buddhas, or become Buddha-like, the Arahats. Reflecting in this way, it's wonderful good karma. By the power of such good karma, may we be blessed with courage and wisdom to aspire to attain extreme winning in this life itself. At the same token, to the power of the three jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to all our loved ones. May they be well and happy. To those who have been kind and supportive of us too, may they be well and happy. And to those practicing the Dhamma, may they quickly, in this life itself, enjoy the fruit of awakening. And also, by the power of the three jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to those people who are still struggling with the teaching, with the truth, who have lost their way, who are seeking solace and awakening. May they find the true teaching in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.